G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
Christian, thanks so much for making the time to talk with me today. I really think our audience will get a lot out of this conversation and the work that you do. But why don't we start off by getting you to give us an introduction into who you are and what you do?
Beautiful. Thanks for having me, Rob. Excited. My name is Christian. I am a sales, what we call a sensei in the dojo world. So I run a company called the Sales Dojo, which is sales training and sales management systems for companies. So we serve both the B2C and B2B realm. So any salespeople who are looking to increase their influence and persuasion skills, be able to close more deals, etc., or business owners who are wanting their team to get training can come in there. And then on the B2B realm of things, we help from everything from just creating and setting up systems for hiring and onboarding reps, all the way through to services like writing scripts and pitches, all the way to even done for you management of sales teams as well. So we cover a lot across the board there. But we do it primarily in the high ticket coaching, consulting, and services industry more than anything else.
Great. No, that makes a lot of sense. So tell me a bit about the typical customer that you work with and what is it that brings them to you? Are they, is it because they're experiencing a bit of pain in terms of not enough sales converting, or is it, hey, I can see a big opportunity and really need to up my capability here? What tends to bring them to you?
It's a great question. I think lots of people realize that they're leaving money on the table somewhere in their business. And more often than not, systems don't really fail you as a business owner more often than not. Like you set up a funnel and it does its thing, right? There will be some things to tweak and of course it can improve, but there's not that human element. It's when you involve the human element of having a sales team, of having closers, of having setters, of a sales manager, et cetera, that's when things can get a little spicy because, people will do people things and that doesn't always lead to the best results. So when people usually come to me, it's when people are doing people things as expected, and they just realize that they're leaving some money on the table that they don't want to leave on the table. They would rather be in their pocket or in their bank account to help them scale, grow the business, make more money, drive that car they want to drive, et cetera, et cetera.
That makes heaps of sense. I like the way you put that. You have people end up doing people things. So that's a good way to summarize it. And certainly, businesses leaving money on the table due to the sales aspect is definitely something I've observed when I'm working with clients. So I can see why there's a need for organizations like yours to come and help. So that's awesome. So tell me, how do you do it? Like, what's the process you would generally take a client through when they come to you so that they're not leaving all of this value on the table?
Fantastic question. It depends on where they're at. If you've got a company and you have no sales team at all, then you're probably going to have to start by selling it yourself. So for those people, we'll just basically provide some basic systems and frameworks and resources, maybe get them through a little bit of sales training, not too much, because we don't need it, just to get them to the level to where they can then outsource their sales, right? Once you start outsourcing your sales and you bring on your first couple of salespeople, you're going to introduce a couple more problems now that you hadn't before. Now you have more people on your team. Your sales team is probably going to make up the majority of your employees as well in the business. And so if it's your first time managing employees, that's going to be a fun time. And then once you get past that level and you start having a sales team of like 10, 15, 20 people, then that now introduces even more problems. So it depends on where you are in the process. But ultimately, I think there's there's three key things that happen within any sales process, right? And I use the word process lightly. It's people, process, and proof, right? So the people side of things is obviously the people that you bring on, the people that you hire, the interviewing, the hiring, the management, the, inspiring your team day to day. It's the idea that people are people and people need help more often than not, right? And you have to make sure that you have that down in order to run a business with people. It just is what it is. None of us can do it on our own. We all
Yep.
need people around us. So how you
Yep.
manage those people and how you help them grow personally is a really big deal.
Mm.
Part number two is then process, making sure that your sales process is dialed in from all the way in the marketing side to the handoff in sales, how you're actually approaching your leads on a day-to-day basis, what the syntax is between like, are you offering a lead magnet and are you calling those people? Or are you going from a lead magnet to an upsell? Are you calling those people? How many calls does it take to get through a sale? What's the average sales cycle? How much can you expect to get through from each customer? There's lots of different things that go on within that. Should it be a one call or a two call process? But ideally, the process should be as simple as possible. It should get customers through as quickly as possible and reduce the amount of refunds and chargebacks on the back end by having a nice balance there between going through quickly, but also giving people the time that they need in order to really start to shift their mindsets and make the purchasing decisions that they need to without having any sorts of regret. That's a big deal, right? Don't want refunds. The last part is then the proof. Proof is basically data collection and interpretation. Because let's say, as an example, your show rate as a business is a little bit low. Say you have 10 booked calls on the calendar and only three of them show up. It's kind of a big deal, right? You're paying money to get calls booked more often than not. And so then you're throwing out 70% of that money that you're spending, hoping to make it back in the three. So the proof is about number one, being able to see the data, having things set up to where you can see where your data points are within the business, what needs improving, et cetera, et cetera. Identifying data, basically. Number two is then interpreting the data and seeing the actual problems that are going on, knowing what's industry standard, what's not. And then last but not least is being able to make decisions based off of the data, right? If your show rate is low, what do we do about it? Do we change the pre-call messaging? Do we change something in the marketing? Do we have the salespeople call them before the call is scheduled? Like, there's lots of different things that you can do. So it's about pinpointing the specific root cause of the problem rather than just the symptoms and making sure that you're solving that. Or else you're just going to be putting band-aids on your whole process for years. That's not a great way to make money.
Yeah. No, that makes heaps of sense. So, slight side question here, but let's say you're starting right at the beginning. You don't have a sales team. You begin to hire your first one, two, three sales people. How quickly would you say you could get to the point where that sales team is really generating value? And I guess I'm thinking, they're making sales over and above what you're making before, where they're paying for themselves, but also contributing to profit and growing the business.
It can happen as quickly as you want it to. The question is how much work you want to put in order to make sure that it happens as quickly as you want it to. Because it's the age-old discussion of like do it right the first time or take quick action, do it wrong, and test and iterate. And it's just a matter of how much preparation you put into things. If you think of like if you're a business owner and you speak on stages at some point, you can either put in a ton of preparation and practice and repetitions to get ready for that first stage speaking gig so that when you first get on stage, it's going to be flawless because you've done it 1,000 times before that in your room, in the mirror, on video, in front of friends, family, coworkers, etc. Or you can say, I'm not going to prepare. I'm just going to go up and let's like screw it, see how it goes. And
Yeah,
it's probably going to suck.
yeah,
But then you can put in the time in repetitions there to eventually get better. Like that, it's going to take time either way. The question is like, do you want to put in that time beforehand, either yourself or through paying for somebody who has experienced the time so that they can put it in for you? Or do you want to put in the time after you've already started it? So I've seen business owners be massively profitable on their very first salesperson and scale the living crap out of their business because they got the right person who has the experience and they paid other people to help them set up systems the right way. I've also seen business owners hardly make any profit on having a team of 20 people. So it's a spectrum, as with anything, right? You can have the perfect funnel, you can have a shit funnel, and
Yeah.
they could be very close to being the same, but some slight differences are really going to change the amount of money that you make.
Yeah. Do you often find, I guess, in the industries that you primarily work with, that the business owner tends to be the first salesperson in terms of they're selling their own things? And are you trying to take what has worked for them in the past and replicate it, or do you tend to find, look, you selling yourself is one thing, but if we want other people to sell you, we're going to have to take a different approach? Does that make sense?
It does. And you'll probably notice a theme with my responses. One of my core values is nothing is, I shouldn't say nothing. Things are rarely black and white, right? There's very rarely like this answer or this answer. It's some sort of amalgamation or mixture in between. So if you are a business owner and you have sales experience, and you sell your own thing, you will probably do very well. And then when you bring on closers, they will likely not do as well as you because you have sales experience. Number one, because you're the guru, right? You are trusted. People see your face to get on a call with you. There's like that whoa factor of meeting the person, right? And then number three, you have the most knowledge about what you do and how you serve people. And so if you expect some random person, even if they're a fantastic salesperson, to come on and do as well as you, then you're probably mistaken. So that would be situation number one. Situation number two is if you're a business owner and you don't have any sales experience, I would absolutely recommend at least attempting to sell it yourself for a few weeks so that number one, you get product or not product, you get like product market fit, right? So you start talking to the people that you're marketing, you see who you're actually attracting firsthand, you get to talk to them, you see what their problems are, you see what their goals are, because you can't really tell that from marketing too much.
Yeah.
Getting on sales calls really gives you on the ground views. And then once you do that for a couple of weeks, you'll probably notice that you suck and that you should probably get a salesperson in. And then that salesperson might do just as well as you, if not maybe a little bit better. If they're really skilled, if they're a new salesperson, might do a little bit worse than you. But at the end of the day, again, it's just a matter of how much you want to put in work in the front end versus the back end. Like, do you want to
Mhm.
really set up a system where you can attract the right talent the first time so that they can help you grow the business quickly? Or would you rather kind of bootstrap it and do it yourself, figure it out, and then eventually through, doing the work yourself, get the business to a point where then you can attract the talent. Just like where do you want to put the time in?
Do you find it difficult to define and execute a clear strategy for your small business? Does your team support your strategy? You know you are ready to create the right environment to boost your team's performance. Our 90-day business transformation program is designed for small business owners like you, with 5 to 30 team members who are ready for growth. Every day you'll receive a short email with a handful of growth actions. You'll invest 30 minutes each week in your one-on-one coaching session, tackling your specific growth challenges with one of our experienced growth guides, business owners themselves. Boost your confidence, your team's performance, and grow your small business with ease with our business transformation program at growsmallbusiness.com.
Yeah, that makes heaps of sense. So can you bring this to life for us and give us a little bit of a case study or an example of a client that you've worked with and what we are able to achieve for them and how did you go about it?
Yeah, fantastic question. I'll leave names out of this,
Sure.
but let's just say the client's name was John, right? We came
Yeah.
on with John, and he was sitting at about, what was it, 180K a month cash, I want to say. Somewhere around 400K a month revenue.
And
And
sorry, just
he,
for a bit more context, can I just get a
Mhm.
sense as to what kind of industry sector or was this
Yes,
the coaching area or?
yes. So he was a coach, and he was coaching day traders how to become better at day trading and therefore make more money. And so it was like classic kind of coaching business, people who are already doing the thing, helping them do it better. Um, and yeah, he was at 180 and 400-ish in revenue. And he had a team of, I want to say it was 8 salespeople. So he had
Right.
already a fairly established team.
Yep.
He already had systems, he already had marketing. They were already kind of doing the thing for a little while. I think it was about a year. But then they got stuck and they weren't sure why they got stuck. And that's when they started seeking out help. They were like, okay, we can't figure this out. Maybe some outside perspective might do us some good.
Yep.
So they came to us. We took a look. First, we just kind of did an audit of what was going on, needed to see if we could help even in the first place.
Yep.
So we did an audit of all their systems. We found the bottlenecks, we found the holes, and basically proposed a plan with them to grow the business. And then over the next 3 months, we scaled the business from that 180K and 400K a month to 780K and 1.2 million a month. So it went pretty quickly. We swapped out most of the sales team. That was a pretty big bottleneck. They just didn't quite know what they were doing. So we needed more experienced sales reps. We needed better systems in terms of data tracking and accountability as well. So the closers were kind of just like doing their own thing without too much accountability, without too much tracking on the back end. So then it was hard to actually diagnose what was going on. We had to really get on a lot of calls to see what was going on. Um, but then ultimately we got them to that point. We left them after that. They were good to go. They've kind of kept scaling from there. Last I heard, they're at about 1.2, 1.3 million a month. So they're absolutely crushing it, having a good time, and they've got all the systems they need to really keep going.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty impressive numbers when you put it like that. That's great. Well done.
It's a good time. At the end of the day, it's a lot simpler than people realize, but I'm sure you know a lot of the simplest things in life are also difficult, right? Like just going to the gym is simple, but actually doing it is another thing. So, and sometimes it just takes some outside perspective as well. Like you're in the business day to day, you see all these things, you've kind of gotten used to them. So having just a third party, unbiased perspective coming in and saying, oh, this thing that you're used to is bad. We should probably change that. That can do wonders as well.
Yeah, and look, it's really similar to our business in the sense that, clients will come to us. Often they'll think they've got problem A. When we step back and look at it, it's like actually, we can see you're way too on the tools as a business owner. The best thing you can do is actually hire another person to take some load off you, and all of a sudden the floodgates open and things start growing. So, like you say, just that outside perspective is sometimes, like you say, can really simplify it. Doesn't necessarily make it easy, but simple's better than complicated. So it's great. Okay. So look, I guess if there was one recommendation that you'd have for a small business owner that's been listening to this conversation today, and I take your point that things are never quite black or white, but I guess if we're just trying to come up with, in your experience, what's generally the one thing you would see that a business owner could do that might really make a difference to his sales, his or her sales, I should say. That's poor language. What might that be?
It's not going to be the answer that people want to hear, but it's the answer that most often business owners need to hear. And
Yeah,
it's to just get on a couple of calls each week yourself.
yeah,
It's not always the most fun thing to do, especially if you don't enjoy sales, if you're not good at it, but it will give you boots on the ground, like groundbreaking views of who you are actually attracting from your marketing and what they want help with.
yeah,
At the end of the day, I think a lot of people these days seek and want human connection as well. And so you as a business owner getting on those calls is probably going to create a really long lasting connection with those people where even if they don't buy from you today, they're going to remember that call with you and they might buy later. And so not only will you get the boots on the ground view of what's going on, but you'll also create a connection with somebody that could turn into who knows how many connections later because that person could refer 30 other people over the course of the next year. And who knows how much revenue that could bring to the business.
awesome. I think that's such great advice. It reminds me of one of the one of the best clients that I worked with, and she always set aside one day a week where she would actually work face to face with her customers. So the other sort of 3 or 4 days a week, she would be very much managing the business, coaching her team. But one day a week, she would always try and be at the coalface. And the amount of insights that gave her um, really helped to propel her business. So I guess your piece of advice just reminded me of her, and I think I think that's excellent advice. So thank you so much. Um, and look, if this conversation has triggered any interest from our audience, where can we find out a bit more about you?
The best place to go is probably going to be www.thesalesdojo.co/QFF. So I've got a special site up just for the people who are listening to this. It's going to give people 3 different ways that they can kind of get more information or maybe look at what sort of bottlenecks they might have in their business. The first one is going to be an asset that can probably help them just immediately close more deals and make more money. I've created a list of 1,000 objections that I've personally gotten in my sales career and exactly how to overcome every single one of them. So that's number one. That is super duper cheap. Anybody can buy it. It's a Starbucks coffee, right? Number two is then a list and a video training of the successful mindsets of a successful salesperson. So even if you're a business owner who hasn't had any sort of sales experience before, this would really help you in order to put yourself in the right frame so that you don't really even need a ton of sales skills in order to make money with your business. And then last but not least is the Sales Dojo if you're really looking to level up your skill set or if you're looking to get some help with your team. You can join the Sales Dojo, and then inside there's lots of different ways that we can kind of interact together from there.
Awesome. Definitely be checking that out, and I'll make sure all of this is in the show notes for people to refer back to.
Absolutely.
Christian, thanks so much for your time. That was really insightful. Did a great job of making that concise, and even though there's no black or white, you did help to bring a little bit of distinction to some of the things we should be thinking about. So really appreciate your time today.
Appreciate you having me, Rob.
Want to help other small business owners improve their business? There's one quick thing you can do, which is jump over to iTunes and leave a review. Or if you don't have an account, follow us on Spotify.